Texas is back on the field this spring. There are so many takeaways and talking points for the Longhorns coming out of their spring game. And we're joined by our tech expert, Sam Kahn Jr., to discuss the biggest stories on the offensive side of the ball. Sam, we have to start with the quarterback position. Five-star prospect and football royalty, Arch Manning, has been the focal point in Austin. But it's another five-star quarterback that Texas will really need to rely on this season.
Yeah, Quinn Ewers is the guy, and Steve Sarkisian mentioned that after the spring game. I don't think it came as a major surprise to anybody in Austin, just because obviously Quinn was a starter last year, and even though he had an up and down season, there's still a lot of positivity and hope for his potential and what he could develop into. And this is his second year. He still really is, even though technically this is his third year of college ball. He really, didn't get much time at Ohio State. So this really, yes, last year was really his true freshman season in a way, and this is really his true sophomore season. So there's still a lot of room for growth for Quinn. And when you look at the way he played in the spring game and throughout this spring, you can tell that he's taken some steps forward in his development. His accuracy downfield seems to be better. And Quinn even himself said he's taking things a little more seriously. He's eating better. He's kind of been a little bit more mature. He's focusing on the little things in a big way. And I think those are all important realizations for him because he's been, you mentioned he was a five-star quarterback. He was the number one recruit in the country in his class. And there were a lot of expectations for him as well. And I think maybe some of that came to be a little bit much, but now it seems like he's kind of buckled down and honed in on what he needs to do to be successful. And if Texas is going to be successful as a team, it really needs to be Quinn Ewers to help them take them there.
Well, Arch Manning has brought all the buzz this offseason, but what were your thoughts on his performance in the spring game?
Yeah, I thought he looked like a freshman. He's a guy who enrolled early, and he's still very young, and this is his first spring practice. And I thought he looked like what a freshman quarterback would look like in that scenario. He was obviously on a team with a bunch of second teamers, so his offensive line, was not exactly what the starting group would be. So that though they got beat a lot, and the defensive line put a lot of pressure on him. So Arch didn't get a lot of time to throw. He had to scramble a lot and get out of the pocket and get out of his comfort zone. So certainly that influenced how he looked. I will say this. I was impressed with his decision making. He didn't really make any bad decisions. He didn't force any throws because when you get pressured as much as he did in that spring game, it's natural for a freshman to just force a ball or have a turnover or make some kind of dumb decision. And Arch didn't do any of that. I think he deserves a lot of credit for just making the smart plays. And he wasn't the most accurate. It wasn't the best day, but you can see some tools there. He certainly understands the offense. He's goes through the reads pretty quickly. He's certainly decisive, and when the ball comes out, it comes out quick. He's got a quick release. The ball's tight when it comes out. I think he's definitely got some tools. He's just going to need a lot of time to develop. And fortunately for Texas, they've got a pretty good quarterback room with a lot of talent, so it's not like they need to rush him out there.
Well, sticking in that quarterback room, there's been a narrative surrounding Ewers and Manning as a head to head battle for the starting job. But is there another freshman who will have a say in the quarterback depth chart?
Yeah, no doubt. Maalik Murphy, I thought played really, really well, and he was a 4-star recruit of his own. He came in around the same time Quinn Ewers did in the 2022 class, and was an early enrollee. But he's just been banged up a lot in his time in Texas. He had a foot injury at the end of his high school career, his last game, and that really leaked into his start at Texas. He really wasn't able to go through spring football in the true freshman season, and he was a little bit banged up in the summertime or early in the season. It wasn't really until the middle of the season that he started to get healthy and was able to get back working with the team and working with the scout team and things of that sort. And I asked Steve Sarkisian back at the start of spring, what can we expect from Maalik? And he's like, I just want to get the guy healthy. Because when he's healthy, he's a really good quarterback. And he even had to miss the first week of spring. But now what I saw in the spring game is I saw a kid who was really confident. He's really big. He's just got a strong arm. He threw some really impressive deep balls. One of them to Jonte Cook for a 79-yard touchdown that I think definitely caught some oohs and ahs from the crowd. And you see why he was a top 200 prospect. He definitely has all the tools you're looking for. And when you see that kind of performance from him, and it seems like he's understanding the offense, he's really starting to get it, and maybe he's finally starting to settle in now that he's getting healthy. If they can get him to August and September at 100%, that could be a really strong number 2 quarterback and somebody I think Steve Sarkisian can trust if they have to turn to him at any point.
With Bijan Robinson gone, Xavier Worthy is now the go-to big play threat for the Longhorns. But with him receiving all the defensive attention, how does the wide receiver depth look behind him?
A lot better. They've made some real big strides from what they had a year ago. Last year, I think Xavier Worthy was the only major deep threat that I think scared opposing defenses. You had Jordan Whittington, who was a really good receiver over the middle, but that really was it for the receiver room. They didn't have a lot of depth behind them, and that's why they hit the portal. They went and got A.D. Mitchell from Georgia, a national champion, who's made some really big plays in the playoff for the Bulldogs. Bringing him back home to the state of Texas, where he's from, has been a big impact. He made a highlight reel catch in the spring game, a touchdown catch across the middle of the field, and you could tell he's going to really add some talent and some energy to that room. I think having somebody who's won at a high level already and still has some eligibility left and he's a talented guy. He's going to be able to take some of the attention away from Worthy, and it doesn't just stop with him. They have Jonte Cook, I mentioned earlier, the 5-star freshman. I think you're going to see him play right away. And they still have Isaiah Nair, the transfer for Wyoming, who came in last year, was supposed to be a big play threat. You know, Quinn Ewers and Nair had a really big touchdown pass in the spring game last year, but Nair got hurt right before the season, ended up tearing his ACL, missed the whole year. And Steve Sarkisian loves the way he looks right now. So when you add those guys into the equation, it's going to become a problem for opposing defense. You're going to have to kind of pick your poison between Mitchell, Worthy, Cook, Nair, and then tied in JT Sanders, who caught 53 balls as a sophomore last year. They've got a lot of weapons to work with in the Texas passing game.
Well, as mentioned, All-American and Doak Walker Award winner Bijan Robinson is on his way to the NFL. How big of a hole is left behind at running back?
I mean, it is. I mean, it's hard to lose somebody of that caliber and not feel the effects a little bit, and not just from a production standpoint, from a leadership standpoint too. Bijan was really one of those guys, and Roshan Johnson, the number 2 back behind him, was also one of those big time leaders and guys they could really rely on. And with both of those guys moving on, it leaves a hole in production. The good news for Texas, they don't really lack for talent in the room. It's just a matter of experience. You saw CJ Baxter, the 5-star freshman they just signed in the 2023 class. He got a lot of work. That you're going to see a lot of him this year, and I think he's an exciting prospect. Jadon Blue, a 4-star prospect from the 2022 class who they signed. He didn't really get much time last year, but he got a lot of work this spring, and you can see some of the development that he's had. And he made a highlight run, kind of broke some tackles and made a little bit of juke move for a touchdown. Definitely some exciting potential for him. And then they've got another one, Jonathan Brooks, who really was the number 3 back for them last year. Anytime he's been in the game, he's produced. He was held out for the spring game this time because he's banged up a little bit. But Brooks is a guy that every time we've seen him, he's been really, really good. So you look at those 3, and then you got Keelan Robinson back, who's kind of a utility back for them, kind of can get out in the pass game and kind of do a myriad things. He's in the special teams rotation as well. They've really got 4 really good options in that backfield. So it's just a matter of kind of figuring out what the rotation's going to be, who they can really rely on, who's going to be your between the tackles guy, who's going to be the guys who get out on the perimeter, and how you meld that rotation together. It's a lot of pieces for Steve Sarkisian to work with. It's just a matter of figuring out where all those pieces fit.
We'll finish up by zooming out a bit. And Texas fans always have the bar set high for their team. But what are fair expectations for the 2023 season?
I think anything short of Texas getting to the Big 12 championship game would be a disappointment. This is a team, when I look at the talent on the roster and what Steve Sarkisian has built over the last 2 years, it's a lot different than what he arrived. The roster he had when he got arrived looked nothing like it does now. And that's a testament to the recruiting they've done, mostly at the high school level, but also filling a few gaps in the portal. And Sark said it himself after the spring game. He feels at every position on this roster, they're about 2 deep, and even at some positions, they feel 3 deep. When you have that kind of depth on top of the top line talent that they have, that they've recruited, to me, that's a conference title contender. And when I look at the Big 12, it's wide open, in my opinion. There's no team outside of really anybody. There's no team like TCU lost a lot. K-State, the conference champion, they lost some key players as well. Those are all going to be good teams, but there's no team that I look at and say, wow, that's a dominant team that's going to run away with the league. I think last year we saw how competitive the Big 12 was from top to bottom. I think it's still very much going to be the case. But to me, when I look at pure roster talent, there's no reason why Texas shouldn't be playing at AT&T Stadium in December.
With Steve Sarkisian heading into his third season in Austin, we'll see how this roster reconstruction results on the field. For more on Texas, go check out and read Sam's work on The Athletic, as well as follow him on Twitter at SConJr. Sam, thanks as always for checking in.
Thank you.